Hey everybody, it's Ed back for another round of Manga Studio instruction. Today I'm going to show you how to make some custom brushes. And this could be really helpful probably for comic artists mostly, but just about anybody who does digital work and you have some stuff that you need to repeat, background types of textures and things like that. This can be a pretty cool way to draw a lot of the things that you don't like drawing, like glass texture or grass or rock or any of those things. And I have to say that I got the idea for this from looking at the book The DC Comics Guide to Digitally Drawing Comics by Freddie Williams III. And also I don't get any kind of money or compensation for that, but it's worth noting that he brought this to my attention. Of course, he was mentioning doing this in Photoshop, but I thought there must be a way to do it in Manga Studio as well. So I decided to look into it. Today I'm going to give an example of how to make a grass brush so that you can ink grass. So if you have some dark grass or you want to do grass in some crazy color or something like that, you can do it. So what we're going to do first is show you a couple things here. Let's just say that this is my character Stickman, and he's out in a field and he doesn't have any grass around him. And you're like, oh, I don't want to draw all the grass in this field. It'll take me forever. It won't look as random as grass actually does. And I've got a tight deadline, etc., etc. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to create a grass brush for him. And actually, I'm going to hide this right now. Here's kind of a couple of different textures that you could use, sort of like a curvy dot. I don't know what this would be. Maybe hair or a coral reef or something like that. Some seeds blowing in the wind, maybe a texture for some stone, and then some grass. So I'm going to start fresh though, but I will create custom brushes for each of these, and I'll try to link to them somewhere in the video or in the description so that you can take them and upload them right into Manga Studio if you want to. All for free, all from me. That's what you get for watching this video. Okay, so let's just start fresh though. So we're going to start with a layer here. This is how you would create your own custom brush. This layer right now is just called Sample, and it's a normal raster layer, color raster layer. What you'll want to do is you will want to actually change the layer type to make sure that it is a grayscale layer. Okay, that's going to seem strange, but if you don't make it a grayscale layer, then when you have your final brush, you won't be able to use other colors with it. So if you wanted to make red grass, for instance, maybe it's bloody grass or something like that, you wouldn't be able to do that if you had this set to normal color layer. So set it to a raster layer that is grayscale, okay? And you'll see the little gray icon like this to show you that. So then you just want to actually take your favorite pen. I'm just going to take like the mapping pen here. I think this is a good one. And you want to create the basic, what we're going to say is the brush tip, okay? So in this case, I'm just going to draw, oh, that's terrible. Let's try something else. Let's do the turnip pen. That's even worse. Well, okay. It doesn't really matter for the purposes of this instruction, but my computer's lagging a bit with the recording software. Just draw it till you get it to where you want it to be. This is a crazy uneven blade of grass. There, good enough. So you draw this on your sample layer. Then you take your selection tool. I'll take the rectangle selection, select it. Then you go to Edit, Register Image as Material. So what you have to do essentially here is a two-step process. You're going to save this as a material. I'm going to call it grass. And then you're going to apply it to a brush. And then you could then use that material theoretically in other applications if you wanted to make a texture or something like that. So it's kind of just a different way of thinking about it. And it saves this image. If you made a really great material image, it saves that, and you can use that whenever you want to. So you can say use for brush tip shape. You can leave this stuff here on its own. I don't mess with any of this. Feel free if you want to mess around with it, but I'm not going to for the example here. Then go to where you want to save it. In my case, I'm just going to save it under brushes, under image material brushes. And I'm actually going to make a custom tag for it. I'm just going to call it custom. You'll see why I'm doing that in a second. Okay, so that's all you need to do. Boom, now it's saved into your materials. Okay, we don't even actually need this layer anymore. What we're going to do next is we're going to create a brush. In this case, I'm actually creating a pen. So I would want to put it along with my other pens. And you can come in here and you can actually just go here and create a copy of the currently selected tool. Or you can actually come up here and you can just say, I want to create a whole new custom subtool. Now, once we get into the actual nuts and bolts of it, you'll see that the custom subtool has a lot of options. And I guess, based on Freddie's book, that they actually differ a fair bit from Adobe Photoshop. So I wouldn't recommend when you first start out creating it from scratch. Instead, I would just take something like the effects line pen and say duplicate, or hit that button that says duplicate. So I'm just going to call this a grass pen. Hit OK. Now I've got a grass pen that at the moment is effectively identical to this effect lines pen. You come down here, you select it, you'll get your tool property window here that shows you all the typical things that you would want to mess with as you're using the pen, like the brush size, opacity, anti-aliasing, and so forth. And if you don't want it to be messed with, you can actually lock it with this button. But we want to mess with it, so we actually want to come down here to the little wrench tool and edit it. Okay, so it starts you off on brush size, which is sort of the set brush size. I'm not sure if that's something that you can make default, but right now it's at 14 for me. I'm probably going to want to change this in a second. And then there's other options here, ink. Okay, so you can mess with a couple things here, and anti-aliasing. I'll come back to those, but the first thing we want to do is we actually want to start with brush tip. So you can see right now the tip shape is a circle. We actually want it to be a material. So we're going to go here, click material, click here to add a tip shape. Now these are all the awesome ones that already come with the program, so there's a lot. You can see there's like some cross hatching, some blobs, diagonal lines. You could use one of these if you wanted to just create your own custom brush. That's your capability. Kind of hard to find the one I created, so I need to come in here and look for custom. And if I type custom in, boom, all of a sudden my grass material shows right up, so I can hit OK once I select that. And you'll see that it's changed now. Now the pen kind of has this grass look to it. I'm going to come back to brush size and actually bump this up a bit so I can see what it looks like. And because this isn't like a typical brush, you're going to want it actually to be bigger. There's a couple other things I want to mess with, but not on this particular tab. So all I'm going to change is the brush size. Then I go to ink. You can do a lot of different things here, and it actually is pretty helpful in that it tells you, if you kind of mouse over different things, what each thing does. Mix with ground color, something you can do. I'm going to leave this the same for right now. Anti-aliasing, this is the soft edge on it. Since I'm going for a hard edge sort of inking look, I'm going to stick with none, but you could mess with that. Okay, we already did our brush shape, brush tip, spraying effect, stroke, all of these things, right? You can mess with all of these things. What we actually want to do is we want to mess with, this looks too uniform, right? We want it to look like random grass, and grass kind of falls different directions at almost like a random pace. So you come in here and you can actually change the whole direction of it. If you just want it to, instead of facing vertical, face to the right, you can just mess with this. You can make it turn it upside down, do all kinds of crazy stuff. We're going to actually leave the initial direction the same, but we're going to click on this little button right here where you can mess with different settings. And what we want is we want this to randomize. Not completely randomize. We don't want upside down grass. So we want to just kind of mess with this until it gets to where we want it. And I think when I did this before, I didn't actually mess with it all that much. I maybe took it up to like 5 or 10. Let's just see what that looks like. Okay. And then you come down here, there's a couple other things you can mess with. As I said, there's so many different things here. You can mess with stabilization, you can mess with display ratio, post correction, any of those things that you want to mess with. I don't want this to actually, maybe you do when you do your own work, depending on how you work, but I don't want it to get narrow to full. I want it to kind of be about the same thickness throughout. So I'm going to actually turn off the starting and ending so that I get more uniform grass. I have no idea what anti-overflow is, so you know, you'll just have to research that a little bit yourself, and I apologize because I know that it's not the best on Manga Studio. So yeah, so there we go. So then we got our pen, and I actually just clicked out of there, and you see it create a little blade of grass. It's tiny, but it's there. So let's actually mess with this a little bit. We're gonna have to take the brush size up quite a bit. And we can just start painting our grass in there. And you might actually even need to bump it up quite a bit more. I'm going to take it up to like 1,000. You can see it creates the grass. I might actually go back and add a little bit more randomness to this to get it to the way I want it to look. But it's already making a lot of those pen strokes in a couple seconds that it would take you to make, you know, in a typical application. So I might actually go back to my editing, and you can also change things about the pen size, things like that. So we're just going to keep this large. What was I doing? Oh, right. So I want to change this to a little bit more random. And it's nice that it gives you this image up here to see kind of what it looks like, provided you have it big enough to see that in the first place. There we go. We're getting a little bit more randomness to it. And just do it, you know, however you like it. You know, just get it to the way you like. You're the one that has to be happy with the final result. So we can actually come back to our guys over here, turn this guy off, turn this guy back on. And if, you know, we want to, within that frame, we can just take a real heavy, you know, brush. Probably want to bump this up. And we can just start inking that grass in. This looks terrible, by the way. So, you know, I hope it's more a demonstration of the what's going on here than than the actual process. But I'll work a little bit better on getting some nice brushes, and I'll put them at the end of this video. So thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you on the internet.